A Toyota technician in Denver says he can predict which cars will still be running at 300,000 miles just by looking at the maintenance folder in the glove box. Not the car, the folder. Here are the 10 habits that separate a Japanese car that dies at 150,000 miles from one that outlives its owner. Number 1. Treat every unusual noise or warning light as urgent, not optional. This is less a task than a mindset, and it ties everything else together. A check engine light from a failing oxygen sensor is a $150 to $250 fix if you catch it early. Ignored for months, the engine runs rich. Unburned fuel overheats the catalytic converter, and that same problem becomes an $800 to $2,000 repair. A coolant puddle the size of a coaster usually means a $40 hose or a $150 water pump. Left alone, it becomes a blown head gasket costing well over $1,500. The cost of a repair rises fastest not with time, but with how long a small problem is allowed to cause damage elsewhere. Number 2. Learn whether your car has a timing belt or a timing chain. Belts are reinforced rubber and wear out, typically needing replacement between 60,000 and 105,000 miles. Chains are metal and generally last the life of the engine. Most Toyota four-cylinders moved to chains in the early 2000s, and Honda's four-cylinders mostly followed, but Honda kept belts on its entire V6 lineup, the Accord, Odyssey, Pilot, and Ridgeline, through 2017. Subaru didn't fully switch until around 2011. On a belt-driven interference engine where pistons and valves share the same space at different points in rotation, a snapped belt lets them collide. The result is bent valves, damaged pistons, and a bill that often exceeds the car's value. Checking your engine code against the service schedule takes 5 minutes. Number 3. Don't trust lifetime transmission fluid. The term exists mainly to remove the dipstick, and without a visible level, most owners forget the fluid exists. Aisin, which builds transmissions for Toyota and many Honda models, recommends changes every 60,000 miles under severe conditions, a category that covers city driving, towing, and hot climates. A drain and fill every 30,000 to 40,000 miles, replacing roughly 40% of the fluid at a time, avoids disturbing clutch material the way a high-pressure flush can. Nissan CVT-equipped Altimas and Sentras from 2007 to 2016 are a known weak point, with lawsuits over failures as early as 60,000 miles. Owners who change CVT fluid every 30,000 miles report far fewer failures. Number 4. Keep the fuel tank above a quarter as a habit. Tanks accumulate rust particles and sediment over years, especially with ethanol-blended fuel sitting for long stretches. The fuel pump sits at the bottom and stays cooled by being submerged in fuel. Running the tank low makes it run hotter and raises the odds of pulling sediment into the line. Denso, which supplies OEM pumps for most Toyota and Honda models, lists low fuel as a leading cause of premature pump failure. Replacement runs $400 to $700, and on some SUVs the tank has to come down to reach it. If none of this is coming from a dealership advisor trying to upsell you, that's the point. Subscribe if breakdowns like this are useful. Number 5. Undercoat the car annually if you live where roads get salted. Salt accelerates oxidation on exposed steel, and frame rust isn't cosmetic. Hintsa has documented multiple recalls tied to frame corrosion on trucks and SUVs in salt belt states. An oil-based undercoating applied every fall penetrates seams a factory treatment can't reach years later, and typically costs $100 to $175 per application. Avoid thick rubberized undercoating on an older vehicle, since it can trap moisture and speed up the exact problem it's meant to stop. Rinsing the undercarriage a few times each winter and touching up chipped paint quickly both slow the damage. Number 6. Flush your coolant and replace the thermostat the same day. Coolant's corrosion inhibitors get used up over time, and once they're gone, the coolant turns mildly acidic and attacks aluminum from the inside, the water pump housing, radiator core, and cylinder head. Flush it every 60,000 miles. While the system's drained anyway, swap the thermostat too, usually under $40 in parts and 20 minutes of labor. A thermostat stuck closed traps coolant in the block and can warp a head in minutes. Head gasket replacement runs $1,500 to $2,000 on a typical 4-cylinder, and $3,500 to $4,500 on Subaru's horizontally opposed engines, where the heads sit on the sides of the block instead of on top. Number 7. Ignore the oil interval printed in your manual. Most modern manuals list 10,000 miles, a number shaped in part by fuel economy standards that reward automakers for advertising longer service intervals, not by what's happening inside the engine at 250,000 miles. Independent oil analysis labs like Blackstone routinely show elevated iron and aluminum particles, early signs of wear, in samples run past 7,000 miles in daily driven 4-cylinders. Taxi fleets running Camrys and Corollas have long stuck to 3,000 to 5,000 mile intervals, and it's common for those cars to cross 300,000 miles before retirement. Number 8. Use the fluid the manufacturer actually specifies. This matters most for transmission fluid, since different automakers use different friction modifiers in their clutch packs, and a mismatched fluid can cause shuddering or accelerated wear. Toyota's WS and Honda's ATF Z1 or DW1 are chemically different from each other and from generic universal ATF, whatever the bottle claims. Call the dealership parts counter with your VIN and buy exactly what they specify. Engine oil is more forgiving. Any full synthetic meeting the right API certification and viscosity works regardless of brand. Air filters are the one place to stick with factory, since some aftermarket oiled filters can contaminate the mass airflow sensor, a repair that runs $200 to $350. Number 9. Flush your brake fluid every 2 to 3 years regardless of mileage. Brake fluid absorbs moisture from the air even inside a sealed system, through microscopic permeation in the lines and seals. That moisture lowers the boiling point and corrodes steel lines and caliper pistons from the inside. A flush costs $100 to $150 and takes under an hour. Skip it for a decade and you risk a spongy pedal on a long downhill grade or corroded lines that fail outright. A yearly coat of high-temp grease on the caliper slide pins keeps them moving freely, which prevents uneven pad wear and seized calipers, especially in salt states. Number 10. Treat the first 5 minutes of every drive differently, especially cold. Cold oil is thicker and takes longer to fully circulate, and the richer fuel mixture the engine runs to compensate can temporarily wash oil film off the cylinder walls. The fix isn't idling in the driveway for 10 minutes. That's a carbureted-era habit. Idle 30 to 45 seconds, then drive gently at low RPM for the first 5 minutes. City driving compounds the problem, since short trips never let the engine reach full temperature, letting condensation build and contributing to sludge. If most of your driving is short city trips, tighten every interval on this list by 20 to 25%. Add it all up and maintaining a Japanese car to 500,000 miles typically runs $30,000 to $40,000, or roughly 6 to 8 cents per mile. Financing a new car instead, once depreciation is factored in, usually lands between 35 and 60 cents per mile. What's the highest mileage you've gotten out of a Japanese car, and what finally ended it? Drop it in the comments, and subscribe for more of these every week.